All right, got an old scrap freezer here. All right, we turn the freezer into this, and this is what we end up with. Keep watching to see how we did it. All right, I'm B from Our Dream, Our Purpose. Always trying to tear things down, melt things, mold things, different things like that. Today we got an old freezer. Went bad on us last year. Sat outside in the back of a truck, gonna haul it to the junkyard. So maybe we can tear it apart, maybe there's some things in it. Maybe we get some aluminum, copper, who knows? So, gonna tear this apart. Doing a couple phases. First, just tear it completely down, then get all the copper and aluminum we can out of it, and then we'll do a melt out of it. But first things first, we'll start tearing it down. It's bent outside a little bit, so it's not the nicest one out there. But let's see if we can't get through it. Start tearing it down. All right. So we're not really focused on taking this apart nice and neat and twirly. We just want to get it taken apart. So you'll see some little bigger tools, just so we can go ahead and get everything out. We'll get underneath, check out the motor, and go from there.
What I'm taking out are trays on the inside of this freezer. There's an upright freezer, so I had trays. But each of the shelves or trays actually had Freon going through those. You see the lines in the trays, so it actually kept it cold as well. At this point, wasn't sure what that was. I started as I was looking at the bottom more. I realized some of the copper piping was painted, so I was hoping that that was all copper on the inside. But as I dug into it, it was not. Just a regular tin or so. Not even tin, more of a metal. So I wasn't able to melt that. Here, just taking the motor off the bottom while the what circulates the Freon. Taking that off. Just trying to get everything torn down, and then we'll see what we have after that. Here's a little bit of wiring attached to the structure itself, getting that off. And there's some tubes as well. Trying to get all the tubing out, and then I'll determine if it's copper or what it is. But just wanted to get everything off first, just to see what it was, what we can use, what we can't.
All right. Get all the tools out of the way, and let's see what we have left. Not as much as thought, but maybe still for a little melt. We took this old freezer, tore it apart. This is everything we came up with. All the rest of this is just junk. This here, got some wiring, electrical wiring. We got some copper tubes painted on the outside, so it'll spoke a little bit when we melt it. All of that's a different type of tubing. It is not copper, so we're really going to focus on just the copper itself. Miscellaneous nuts and bolts won't do any good. We'll get into this. This is just inside. It's drained the oil out of it now. We'll get into that and see what's inside of it. Maybe there's useful items. Maybe there's nothing whatsoever. Maybe it's going to be a very small pour. But let's try it and see. At least we'll learn from it. All right, I'm back. It's actually been a day or two. Main reason is I want this to actually drain. There's oil inside of it, so we'll get that drained down. It's been drained for a little bit, so the first thing you'll see is me actually cut this off. Let's see if there's any copper inside there. We've got a little bit of copper. I cleaned the area up, got rid of anything. There was a little bit in here, tubing. I thought it was copper, but when I put a magnet to it, it was not. You can see some of it's painted, so it's a little deceiving, but we'll get that off. We'll get this melted down. We'll strip the wire down, get a little copper there. I'm going to cut some of this because there is some solder on that. Try to clean that up a little bit so we make sure what we're melting is just the copper itself. So let's start with tearing this down, and then we'll strip the wire, see what we have, and then we'll go with the melt from there. All right, let me take you over to the vise. Let's see a little bit better. Let's go.
Surprise! I actually went through quite a few cutting discs on this and used a Sawzall as well. We'll keep working on it, try to get this apart. Yep, this fell right out of the vise, right onto the floor. Luckily it didn't hurt anything. We're tearing it apart anyways. Let's keep getting to it. So inside that container I actually found a motor with a lot of copper in it. And I actually found a little bit of aluminum inside as well. Surprised about the aluminum. So we'll take it apart, try to cut this, take the copper apart. Ended up just going to melt with the metal attached. And the aluminum will melt out of it. We'll separate it in the crucible itself. And then the copper, you can see here, we're just cutting it up. And then we'll be able to melt that down as well. Here I'm trying to strip the wire apart. There's several different size wires used for this, so it's a little more of a pain than I thought, but we'll keep going it.
All right. Back, got some wire, tore apart. Actually found some aluminum inside. This is the metal strap around it, but when we melt the aluminum, I'll actually pull that out. We've got from the motor that was inside, we got all the wire. Copper. I was wrapping it here. These are all copper tubing. I did cut the one piece off. I actually thought it was the solder. It wasn't. It was actually inside there's a little filter. Took all that out, little metal pieces inside, took that out. So we can melt that cleanly. And I say cleanly, there's paint on a lot of this, so it'll burn off. This over here was just miscellaneous metal. We'll throw that out, scrap it out, and go from there. So it's gonna be a smaller melt than I expected, but let's get to it, make some small little bars and see what we can come up with. All right, let's get to melting. Let's start with the aluminum. Just a couple small pieces. But it doesn't take as long for that to melt. So at the lower temperature,
Here we're getting the fire going. You'll see it. As I mentioned before, here I'm pulling the crucible out for the aluminum, and then I'm going through it and actually pulling the metal out, the steel. The aluminum itself melted really good, just trying to get all the steel out. Had a real clean pour with the aluminum here. Turned out really nice and clean. But I'll pour this little bar and then we'll warm it up a little more so we can pour the rest of it into a coin. Pouring the last bit of aluminum here into a coin mold, and then going to switch over to put the copper in the crucible, in a separate crucible in the forge itself. That's what you see me doing here.
Just a little bit of aluminum. We're going to switch over to copper now.
So you're going to see when I open this up, when I melt the aluminum, it melts at a lower temperature. Copper itself is between 1900 and 2000 degrees Fahrenheit that it takes to melt copper. So you can see when I'm pulling the crucible out, the red glowing is, it's that hot. Inside there is the melting copper. So we'll go ahead and clean it up a little bit. and do a pour. And I'll also say, as you can see us pouring it here, very similar to aluminum. It was a very clean metal. The copper was very clean as well as we were pouring it. So we made a bar out of it, and then we'll put it back in and heat it up a little bit more. This is me just putting the rest of the copper that I have in the crucible before I put it back in the forge itself. The flames you see coming out are because there was some paint on some of the copper tubing, so it was burning that off. And that's how the temperature does. And then you see the green flames. Copper, every time I've done copper, you end up with green flames at some point in it. So, but we'll continue melting this, and we'll do one final pour with it. Typically won't use a wire wheel on the aluminum, but the copper I definitely will. I started off with just a regular wire wheel, switched over to this brass one a friend of mine gave me, and it is cleaning it up a lot better. So I'll pick up a few more of those and continue using that to clean up any of the bars I make.
All right, so we cleaned everything up. Now you can see what we got out of it. It was a freezer, large freezer, so it looks like you're gonna get a lot, but there really was not a lot. A lot of the inside was metal tubing, so it was not copper or aluminum. Even some on the bottom, which looked completely copper, was not. Actually, you saw me pull some out. Thought it was copper, wasn't melting at the right temperature. Pulled it out, just got the copper out of it. So there was a little aluminum, didn't expect that at all. So we'll weigh it up here and see how it goes. Come a little closer, watch the weigh. All right, let's go ahead and weigh it up. Start with the aluminum. Not much aluminum, 9.03 ounces. Not even a pound there, that's okay. Go with the copper. 1 bar is a pound, 8 ounces. Second bar is a little thinner, but we're over 2 pounds, 2 pounds, 7.4 4 ounces. So, all right, not a lot out of it, but it was either that or it was getting thrown out, and just something to see how much it was. Didn't really know myself how much there was in it. Thought there'd be a little more copper, surprised by the aluminum. So we got a little bit of aluminum out of it. Copper, a little over 2 pounds, 2.7, but nice clean copper, so we're able to clean up. Again, we're just trying different things. If we find different items, we'll tear them down. We'll see what we can melt them into. You got ideas, send them towards us, and we'll keep doing videos. All right, like, subscribe, our dream, our purpose. Share the video, trying to grow our channel. All right, thank you.